She was losing every training exercise. Then the SEAL commander gave a single command. Sarah Mitchell had dreamed of becoming a Navy SEAL since she was 12 years old. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, she spent her afternoons reading military biographies and watching documentaries about Special Forces operations. Her father, a retired Marine, would often find her doing push-ups in the backyard or timing herself on obstacle courses she built from old tires and wooden planks. When the Navy finally opened combat roles to women, Sarah was among the first to volunteer for SEAL training. At 24, she had already completed 2 deployments as a Navy communications specialist and had earned the respect of her peers through her dedication and technical skills. Her commanding officers recommended her for the program, noting her exceptional physical fitness scores and unwavering determination. The day Sarah arrived at Naval Special Warfare Training Center in Coronado, California, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervous energy. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly before her, its waves crashing against the beach where she would soon be crawling through sand and surf. She stood among 47 other candidates, most of them men who towered over her 5'6" frame. Some glanced at her with curiosity, others with skepticism. Commander Jake Reynolds, a 20-year veteran with multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, addressed the new class. His voice carried the weight of authority earned through countless missions and the responsibility of training the next generation of warriors. He explained that over the next 6 months, they would be pushed beyond their physical and mental limits. Only those who proved themselves worthy would earn the coveted SEAL Trident. The first week of training introduced Sarah to a level of intensity she had never experienced. Dawn began with a 4-mile run on the beach, followed by hours of calisthenics, swimming, and obstacle course training. The instructors seemed to take particular interest in testing her limits, perhaps wondering if she truly belonged among the elite candidates. During the first combat simulation exercise, Sarah found herself struggling to keep pace with her team. The scenario involved infiltrating a mock enemy compound under cover of darkness. As they approached the target, Sarah's movements felt clumsy and uncertain. She fumbled with her equipment, made too much noise crossing a gravel path, and failed to properly communicate with her teammates through hand signals. The exercise ended in failure. The instructors gathered the team for an after-action review, pointing out every mistake and missed opportunity. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility for their poor performance, knowing that in a real mission, such errors could cost lives. She noticed some of her teammates exchanging glances, their expressions suggesting doubt about her capabilities. The pattern continued through the following weeks. In water-based exercises, Sarah's swimming technique was strong, but she struggled with the tactical aspects of underwater navigation and beach reconnaissance. During weapons training, her marksmanship was accurate, but she had difficulty with the complex coordination required for team-based assault scenarios. Each failure chipped away at her confidence. Sarah began to question whether she truly belonged in this elite program. The physical demands were challenging but manageable, yet something about the tactical elements seemed to elude her understanding. She would lie awake at night in her barracks, replaying the day's exercises and trying to identify what she was doing wrong. Her teammates began to lose faith in her abilities. During mealtimes, conversations would quiet when she approached their table. She overheard whispered discussions about weak links and the importance of team cohesion. The isolation was perhaps more difficult than the physical training itself. Commander Reynolds observed these dynamics carefully. He had seen many promising candidates struggle with different aspects of SEAL training. Some excelled at physical challenges but cracked under psychological pressure. Others demonstrated tactical brilliance, but lacked the endurance for sustained operations. Sarah's case intrigued him because her individual skills were solid, yet she seemed unable to integrate them effectively during team exercises. One evening after a particularly challenging day of urban warfare simulations, Sarah sat alone on the beach watching the sunset. The rhythmic sound of waves provided a temporary escape from the constant pressure of training. She thought about her childhood dreams and wondered if they had been naive fantasies rather than achievable goals. Commander Reynolds approached her, his boots crunching softly on the sand. He had observed her sitting there for over an hour, clearly wrestling with internal doubts. Without invitation, he settled beside her and looked out at the darkening horizon. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes before he spoke about the nature of failure and learning. He explained that every SEAL he had known, including himself, had faced moments of doubt during training. The difference between those who succeeded and those who quit was not the absence of failure, but the willingness to learn from it and adapt. Sarah appreciated his words, but they did little to address the specific challenges she was facing. She felt lost in a maze of tactical concepts and team dynamics that seemed to come naturally to her peers. The next morning would bring another series of exercises, and she feared repeating the same mistakes that had plagued her for weeks. As Commander Reynolds stood to leave, he paused and looked back at her. There was something in his expression that suggested he understood her struggle more deeply than she realized. He had been watching her carefully, not just during exercises, but in the quiet moments between training sessions. He saw how she studied her notes long after others had gone to sleep, how she practiced equipment handling in her spare time, and how she pushed herself through extra physical training despite her exhaustion. The next morning arrived with the usual pre-dawn wake-up call. Sarah prepared herself mentally for another day of challenges, knowing that each exercise brought her closer to either breakthrough or breaking point. She had no way of knowing that Commander Reynolds had spent much of the night reviewing her performance records and developing a plan that would change everything. The sun rose over Coronado Beach as the candidates assembled for their morning briefing, unaware that this day would mark a turning point in Sarah's journey toward becoming a Navy SEAL. The morning briefing revealed their most complex exercise yet, a multi-phase operation combining reconnaissance, infiltration, and extraction. Commander Reynolds divided the candidates into teams of 6, mixing experienced performers with those who had been struggling. Sarah found herself assigned as the communications specialist for Team Alpha, a position that required her to coordinate between ground units and command while maintaining operational security. As Team Alpha studied their mission parameters, Sarah noticed the tactical complexity involved multiple moving parts that had to synchronize perfectly. They would insert by boat 2 miles offshore, swim to a designated beach, conduct reconnaissance on a simulated enemy installation, gather intelligence, and extract via helicopter from a different location. The entire operation needed to be completed within a 4-hour window, while avoiding detection by opposing forces played by SEAL instructors. Team leader Marcus Rodriguez, a former Army Ranger, gathered his team for planning. He assigned roles based on individual strengths, placing Sarah in charge of maintaining communication with headquarters and coordinating timing between phases. The responsibility felt both familiar and daunting, as her previous failures had occurred during similar coordination-heavy scenarios. During the equipment preparation phase, Sarah methodically checked her radio gear, backup systems, and encryption devices. She had learned from experience that technical failures during exercises often stemmed from inadequate preparation rather than equipment malfunction. Her teammates noted her attention to detail, though some remained skeptical about her ability to perform under pressure. The team boarded their insertion craft as darkness fell over San Diego Bay. The boat rocked gently as they traveled toward their drop-off point, giving Sarah time to review communication protocols and coordinate frequencies. She felt the familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach, but pushed it aside by focusing on the technical aspects of her role. The water insertion went smoothly. Sarah's swimming skills, honed through years of competitive swimming in college, served her well as she moved through the dark water alongside her teammates. They reached the beach undetected and quickly transitioned to land-based movement toward their reconnaissance objective. The first signs of trouble emerged during the approach phase. Team Alpha encountered unexpected patrol patterns from the opposing force that differed from their intelligence briefing. Rodriguez made the decision to alter their route, requiring Sarah to update headquarters and coordinate with other teams operating in the area. As Sarah attempted to establish radio contact, she discovered that their primary communication frequency was being jammed by instructors playing the role of enemy forces. This was an unscripted complication that tested the team's ability to adapt under pressure. She quickly switched to backup frequencies, but found that her teammates were scattered across different positions, making coordination difficult. The situation deteriorated rapidly. While attempting to maintain communications with multiple parties, Sarah lost track of her immediate teammates' movement. When she looked up from her radio equipment, she realized she had become separated from the group during their tactical advance. The darkness and unfamiliar terrain suddenly felt overwhelming. Sarah found herself alone in hostile territory, carrying sensitive communication equipment that could not fall into enemy hands. She could hear movement in the surrounding brush, but could not determine whether the sounds came from her teammates or the opposing force. Her training kicked in as she sought concealment behind a large boulder, trying to re-establish contact with her team. Minutes stretched like hours as Sarah attempted to locate her teammates through careful radio calls. She used predetermined code, words and signal protocols, but received only static in response. The exercise was supposed to test team coordination, but she was now facing a solo survival scenario that had not been part of the original plan. The sound of approaching footsteps forced Sarah to make a critical decision. She could remain hidden and hope her team would find her, or she could take initiative and attempt to complete the mission objectives on her own. Her previous failures had often resulted from hesitation and indecision, qualities that had no place. In special operations, Sarah chose action over paralysis. Using her navigation skills and the intelligence briefing they had received, she began moving toward the target installation. Her progress was slow and careful, as she had to avoid detection while carrying bulky communication equipment. Every shadow could conceal an enemy observer, and every sound might betray her position. The target compound appeared through the darkness exactly where their intelligence had indicated. Sarah observed the structure from multiple angles, noting guard positions, entry points, and potential escape routes. She realized that her separation from the team had actually provided her with a unique opportunity to conduct detailed reconnaissance, without the complications of coordinating multiple people. Using her radio equipment, Sarah began documenting intelligence about the target. She photographed key installations, recorded guard patrol patterns, and identified vulnerabilities in the compound's security. The work was methodical and thorough, drawing on skills she had developed during her previous military service. As she worked, Sarah heard radio chatter indicating that other teams were experiencing similar difficulties with communication jamming and unexpected tactical complications. The instructors had clearly designed this exercise to push candidates beyond their comfort zones and force them to operate independently when team coordination broke down. Commander Reynolds monitored the EI exercise from the command center, tracking each team's progress through GPS beacons and surveillance equipment. He watched Sarah's isolated movement with particular interest, noting how she had adapted to an unplanned solo mission rather than becoming paralyzed by the change in circumstances. The extraction phase of the operation was scheduled to begin in 90 minutes. Sarah faced a choice: attempt to rejoin her scattered teammates or continue operating independently to complete the mission objectives. She had gathered valuable intelligence about the target, but the original plan called for team-based coordination during the extraction phase. Her radio crackled with a brief transmission from Rodriguez, indicating that Team Alpha was regrouping at a predetermined rally point 1 kilometer from her current position. The message was partially garbled due to continued jamming, but Sarah understood enough to know that her teammates were safe and attempting to reconstitute their unit. Sarah made the decision to continue her independent operation while maintaining loose coordination with her team. She had found her rhythm working alone, and the intelligence she was gathering exceeded what they had originally hoped to achieve. For the first time since beginning SEAL training, she felt confident in her tactical decisions and execution. Operating alone in enemy territory, Sarah discovered abilities she never knew she possessed. Without the pressure of coordinating with teammates or following someone else's tactical decisions, her mind cleared and her instincts sharpened. She moved through the darkness with growing confidence, gathering intelligence that would prove crucial to the mission's success. The target compound revealed more secrets as Sarah maintained her solitary observation. She documented a hidden entrance that other teams had missed, identified a weakness in the guard rotation schedule, and discovered what appeared to be a communications hub that could be valuable for future operations. Her training in electronic surveillance, which had seemed irrelevant during previous team exercises, suddenly became her greatest asset. As the extraction time approached, Sarah faced her most challenging decision yet. Her team had managed to regroup at the designated rally point, but they were now behind schedule due to the communication difficulties they had experienced. She could abandon her current position and rejoin them, potentially helping them reach the extraction zone on time. Or she could continue her intelligence-gathering mission and risk missing the helicopter pickup entirely. The radio crackled with another fragmented message from Rodriguez. Team Alpha was moving toward the extraction point, but had encountered opposition force patrols that were actively hunting for them. Several other teams had already been captured during their attempts to reach the landing zone, and the window for successful extraction was narrowing rapidly. Sarah realized that her isolated position actually provided a tactical advantage. She could observe the movement patterns of the opposing forces without being detected, potentially providing her teammates with crucial information about safe routes to the extraction point. She switched to a different frequency and began transmitting coded updates about enemy positions and patrol routes. Her communication intercepts proved invaluable. Team Alpha was able to avoid 2 separate ambushes by following Sarah's guidance about enemy movements. Other teams monitoring the frequency also benefited from her intelligence, allowing them to adjust their extraction routes and avoid capture. For the first time during training, Sarah felt like she was contributing meaningfully to mission success rather than hindering it. Commander Reynolds watched the exercise unfold with growing interest in Sarah's performance. Her adaptation to solo operations demonstrated tactical flexibility that many candidates lacked. More importantly, she had transformed what could have been a mission failure into an intelligence coup that benefited multiple teams. He began to understand why her previous exercises had been unsuccessful. The helicopter extraction proved to be the most challenging phase of the operation. Sarah's teammates reached the landing zone safely, thanks largely to her intelligence updates about enemy positions. However, she now found herself stranded nearly 2 kilometers away with opposition forces converging on her location. The helicopter had a limited window to remain in the area before the exercise concluded. Sarah made a calculated decision that surprised everyone monitoring the exercise. Instead of attempting to reach the primary extraction point, she identified an alternative landing area that would be safer for the helicopter and began moving toward it. She transmitted her new coordinates to the extraction team while continuing to evade detection by the opposing forces. The alternative extraction site was a small clearing surrounded by dense vegetation, barely large enough for a helicopter to land safely. Sarah reached the location with minutes to spare, but the approaching aircraft faced a technically challenging landing in darkness with no ground crew assistance. She would need to guide the helicopter in using only her tactical flashlight and radio communication. As the helicopter approached, Sarah heard the sounds of pursuit behind her. The opposing forces had tracked her movements and were closing in on her position. She had perhaps 3 minutes before they would discover her location and compromise the extraction. The helicopter pilot reported difficulty identifying the landing zone due to the dense tree cover. Sarah switched her tactical light to a strobing pattern and climbed onto a fallen log to make herself more visible to the aircraft. The helicopter circled overhead, its rotors creating a deafening noise that would certainly alert nearby enemy forces. She could see flashlight beams moving through the forest, indicating that her pursuers were very close. The extraction became a race against time. Sarah guided the helicopter toward the small clearing, while opposition forces crashed through the underbrush toward her position. She maintained calm radio communication with the pilot, providing precise guidance about obstacles and approach angles, despite the mounting pressure of imminent capture. The helicopter touched down in the clearing, just as the first opposition force members reached the perimeter of the landing zone. Sarah sprinted toward the aircraft, her communication equipment bouncing against her back as she covered the final meters to safety. She dove through the open door as the helicopter lifted off, barely escaping capture by the pursuing instructors. As the aircraft climbed into the night sky, Sarah felt an unfamiliar sense of accomplishment. She had not only completed her assigned mission, but had exceeded expectations by providing crucial intelligence to multiple teams and executing a complex Extraction under extreme pressure. The exercise that had begun with communication failures and team separation had ended with her most successful performance to date. Commander Reynolds debriefed each team separately, analyzing their performance and identifying areas for improvement. When Sarah's turn came, she expected criticism for becoming separated from her team and deviating from the original mission plan. Instead, she found herself facing questions about her decision-making process and tactical adaptations during the solo operation. The commander's questions focused on her ability to operate independently while maintaining coordination with other elements. He seemed particularly interested in her intelligence-gathering techniques and her creative solution to the extraction challenge. Sarah began to understand that her perceived weaknesses during previous exercises might actually represent a different approach to special operations rather than fundamental flaws. During the group debrief session, Sarah learned that her intelligence contributions had been crucial to the overall success of the exercise. Multiple teams credited her position reports with helping them avoid capture and reach their extraction point safely. The alternative landing zone she had identified became a case study in adaptive tactical thinking that would be used in future training scenarios. For the first time since arriving at Coronado, Sarah felt genuine acceptance from her fellow candidates. They approached her after the debrief session to discuss her tactical decisions and ask questions about her communication techniques. The isolation and skepticism she had experienced for weeks began to fade as her peers recognized her unique contributions to team success. The success of the extraction exercise marked a turning point in Sarah's training experience, but Commander Reynolds knew that one successful mission did not guarantee future performance. He had observed something important during the exercise that Sarah herself had not yet recognized, and he needed to find a way to help her understand and consistently apply these newfound abilities. Over the following days, Sarah noticed subtle changes in how the instructors approached her training. Instead of placing her in traditional team positions where she had previously struggled, they began assigning her roles that required more independent thinking and technical expertise. During weapons maintenance sessions, she found herself teaching other candidates about radio equipment and electronic warfare countermeasures. The shift in her training focus revealed capabilities that had been overshadowed by her difficulties with conventional team tactics. Sarah discovered that she had an intuitive understanding of information warfare and electronic intelligence gathering that surpassed many of her peers. Her background in communications technology, which she had considered merely supportive, actually represented a specialized skill set highly valued in modern special operations. Commander Reynolds began incorporating more complex scenarios that required candidates to operate in small dispersed units rather than traditional team formations. These exercises reflected the realities of contemporary warfare, where special operations forces often worked in isolation with limited support and communication. Sarah thrived in these environments, demonstrating tactical creativity and technical expertise that had been hidden during larger group exercises. During a particularly challenging scenario involving deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines, Sarah found herself paired with two other candidates for a 3-day field exercise. The mission required them to establish a covert observation post, gather intelligence on enemy movements, and remain undetected while coordinating with distant support elements. The exercise took place in the rugged mountains of Southern California, far from the familiar coastal environment where most of their training occurred. The small team moved through harsh terrain under the cover of darkness, carrying specialized surveillance equipment and enough supplies for an extended operation. Sarah's role involved maintaining communication with headquarters while operating sophisticated electronic monitoring devices that could intercept enemy communications and track vehicle movements. The technical complexity of her equipment rivaled anything used in actual combat operations. Establishing the observation post required careful consideration of terrain features, concealment opportunities, and communication line-of-sight requirements. Sarah's training in electronic warfare proved invaluable as she identified optimal positions for their various monitoring devices while ensuring they remained hidden from enemy detection systems. Her teammates began to defer to her expertise in technical matters, recognizing her superior knowledge in electronic operations. The 3-day exercise tested every aspect of their training, from basic survival skills to advanced tactical operations. Sarah found herself naturally assuming leadership responsibilities related to intelligence gathering and mission planning, roles that had not been assigned to her during previous exercises, but that she filled through demonstrated competence and initiative. On the second night of the operation, their communication with headquarters was compromised by what appeared to be enemy jamming. Sarah diagnosed the problem as a sophisticated electronic warfare attack that required technical countermeasures beyond the scope of standard radio procedures. She spent hours analyzing the interference patterns and developing workarounds that allowed them to maintain essential communication links. Her solution involved using multiple communication systems in a coordinated pattern that confused enemy jamming efforts while providing redundant pathways for critical information. The technique was complex enough that she had to train her teammates on proper procedures, effectively becoming their instructor in advanced communication security. Her confidence grew as she recognized that her technical expertise was genuinely valuable to mission success. The intelligence they gathered during the exercise exceeded all expectations. Sarah's electronic monitoring revealed enemy movement patterns that would have been impossible to detect through visual observation alone. She identified hidden supply routes, communication frequencies, and tactical procedures that provided crucial insights into enemy capabilities and intentions. The quality of their intelligence gathering impressed even the experienced instructors monitoring their performance. Commander Reynolds visited their observation post on the final day of the exercise, ostensibly to evaluate their concealment and operational security. In reality, he wanted to observe Sarah's performance in her element, working with technical equipment and independent decision-making rather than struggling to fit into conventional team structures. What he saw confirmed his growing understanding of her unique capabilities. Sarah demonstrated mastery of complex electronic systems that many experienced SEALs found challenging. She had integrated multiple information sources to create a comprehensive picture of enemy activities that far exceeded what typical reconnaissance missions produced. More importantly, she had done this while maintaining operational security and effectively leading her small team through technical challenges they had never encountered. The debrief session following the 3-day exercise focused heavily on technical innovations and intelligence gathering procedures. Sarah found herself at the center of discussions about advanced electronic warfare techniques and their applications in special operations. Her teammates and instructors asked detailed questions about her methods, treating her as a subject matter expert rather than a struggling candidate. Commander Reynolds took careful notes during the debrief, particularly regarding Sarah's explanations of electronic warfare countermeasures and intelligence fusion techniques. He recognized that her approach to special operations differed significantly from traditional methods, but produced results that were arguably superior to conventional tactics in many scenarios. The challenge was helping other instructors and candidates understand the value of her unique skill set. Following the exercise, Sarah experienced a dramatic shift in her relationships with fellow candidates. Those who had previously questioned her abilities now sought her assistance with technical training and equipment problems. She began conducting informal instruction sessions on electronic warfare and communication security, sharing knowledge that enhanced the entire class's capabilities. The transformation in group dynamics was remarkable. Sarah evolved from an isolated candidate struggling to fit in to a recognized expert whose knowledge benefited everyone. Her confidence improved correspondingly as she finally understood how her individual strengths contributed to team success, rather than hindering it. The technical competence she had always possessed was finally being recognized and utilized effectively. Commander Reynolds scheduled a private meeting with Sarah to discuss her progress and future training focus. He had spent considerable time analyzing her performance across all exercises, identifying patterns that revealed her true potential as a special operations warrior. The conversation would prove to be the most important discussion of her military career, fundamentally changing how she understood her role in the elite SEAL community. Commander Reynolds requested that Sarah meet him in his office after the evening meal, an unusual summons that immediately caught her attention. As she walked across the base in the fading daylight, she wondered whether this meeting would bring criticism, or recognition. Her recent successes had built her confidence, but years of military service had taught her to expect the unexpected from senior officers. The commander's office reflected his long career in special operations, with photographs from deployments around the world and commendations earned through decades of service. He gestured for Sarah to take a seat across from his desk, then spent several moments reviewing her training files and performance evaluations. The silence stretched uncomfortably as she waited for him to speak. When Commander Reynolds, finally, looked up from her records, his expression was thoughtful rather than critical. He began by acknowledging her recent improvements in training performance, particularly her success during independent operations and technical exercises. However, he explained that her early struggles had revealed something important about traditional SEAL training methods that he wanted to discuss in detail. The commander explained that SEAL training had evolved over decades to produce warriors, capable of operating in conventional team structures under traditional command hierarchies. This approach worked well for the majority of candidates, but occasionally produced exceptional operators who functioned differently, but equally effectively. Sarah's performance patterns suggested she belonged to this second category. He described how modern warfare was changing to emphasize information operations, electronic warfare, and small unit tactics that required different skills than traditional SEAL missions. Sarah's technical expertise and ability to operate independently made her ideally suited for these emerging operational requirements. Her initial difficulties had resulted from trying to force her unique capabilities into conventional training frameworks. Commander Reynolds revealed that he had been observing her performance carefully since the beginning of training, not because he doubted her abilities, but because he recognized her potential for specialized operations. Her struggles during traditional team exercises had actually demonstrated qualities that would be invaluable in certain types of missions that required technical expertise and independent decision-making. The conversation shifted to specific examples from Sarah's training performance. The commander analyzed her electronic warfare successes, her ability to adapt to changing tactical situations, and her talent for information gathering and analysis. He explained how each of these capabilities addressed critical needs in modern special operations that traditional training sometimes overlooked. Sarah began to understand that her training experience had been fundamentally different from her classmates, not because she was less capable, but because she possessed different capabilities that required alternative development approaches. The realization was both relieving and empowering, as it reframed her early struggles as necessary steps in discovering her true potential as a special operator. Commander Reynolds then made an unprecedented offer. He explained that the Navy was developing specialized programs for SEAL operators with advanced technical skills, positions that would require her to complete traditional training, while also pursuing additional education in electronic warfare and intelligence operations. These roles would eventually place her in elite units that conducted the most sensitive and complex missions. The opportunity represented everything Sarah had dreamed of achieving, but it also required her to complete the remaining months of basic SEAL training while maintaining her technical edge. Commander Reynolds warned that the path would be challenging, as she would need to demonstrate competence in all traditional SEAL skills while developing her specialized capabilities even further. Sarah accepted the challenge without hesitation. The conversation had provided clarity about her role in special operations and confidence in her abilities that had been missing throughout her training. She finally understood how her unique skills contributed to SEAL missions rather than detracting from them. The technical expertise she had always possessed was not a distraction from warrior training, but an integral part of modern warfare. The commander outlined additional training opportunities that would be available to her, including advanced courses in electronic warfare, intelligence analysis, and information operations. These programs would run parallel to her standard SEAL training, requiring her to manage an intensive schedule that would test her dedication and time management skills as much as her technical abilities. As their meeting concluded, Commander Reynolds offered one final piece of guidance that would prove crucial to Sarah's future success. He explained that her greatest strength was her ability to see tactical situations differently than others, approaching problems from unique angles that often revealed solutions others missed. This perspective was valuable precisely because it differed from conventional thinking. He advised her to continue developing this analytical approach while also mastering traditional SEAL tactics and procedures. The combination of conventional skills with innovative thinking would make her an exceptionally valuable team member in any operational environment. The key was learning to integrate these different approaches rather than viewing them as conflicting methodologies. Sarah left the meeting with a completely transformed understanding of her place in SEAL training and her future career in special operations. The struggles and failures that had plagued her early training now appeared as necessary experiences that had helped her discover her true capabilities. She felt motivated to excel in all aspects of her remaining training while preparing for the specialized roles that awaited her. The following morning brought a renewed sense of purpose to her training activities. Sarah approached each exercise with the understanding that she was preparing for missions that would require both traditional SEAL skills and advanced technical capabilities. Her performance in conventional team exercises improved dramatically as she learned to integrate her unique perspective with established tactical procedures. Her fellow candidates noticed the change in her confidence and performance immediately. Sarah began participating more actively in team planning sessions, offering technical insights that enhanced their tactical approaches. Her suggestions were increasingly well received as other candidates recognized the practical value of her expertise in electronic operations and information warfare. The transformation was remarkable to observe. Within weeks of her meeting with Commander Reynolds, Sarah had evolved from a struggling candidate to one of the most innovative tactical thinkers in her class. Her ability to combine traditional SEAL techniques with advanced technical skills created new possibilities for mission success that impressed instructors and fellow candidates alike. Commander Reynolds continued monitoring her progress with satisfaction, knowing that his identification of her unique capabilities had unlocked potential that might otherwise have been wasted. Sarah's success validated his belief that effective leadership sometimes required recognizing when conventional approaches were insufficient and finding alternative paths to excellence. 6 months after beginning SEAL training, Sarah stood among the graduates preparing for their final exercise, the culmination of everything they had learned during their intense preparation. Only 18 of the original 48 candidates remained, each having proven their worthiness to join the elite ranks of naval special warfare. Sarah had not only survived the grueling process but had emerged as one of the most technically skilled operators in her class. The final exercise was designed to test every aspect of their training in a complex, multi-day operation that simulated real-world mission conditions. Teams would be inserted into hostile territory with minimal support, required to accomplish multiple objectives while evading a sophisticated opposing force. Success demanded perfect integration of all the skills they had developed, from basic marksmanship to advanced electronic warfare techniques. Sarah found herself assigned as the technical specialist for the final mission, a role that recognized her expertise while challenging her to apply those skills in support of traditional SEAL operations. Her team would conduct a deep penetration mission behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence while simultaneously conducting direct action against high-value targets. The complexity exceeded anything they had attempted during training. Commander Reynolds observed the mission planning sessions with particular interest in how Sarah's teammates incorporated her technical capabilities into their tactical approach. He was pleased to see that her fellow SEALs now viewed her electronic warfare skills as essential to mission success, rather than an unusual specialty. The integration he had hoped to achieve was finally complete. The mission began with a nighttime insertion via submarine, 40 miles offshore from their target area. Sarah's equipment load included not only standard combat gear, but also sophisticated electronic monitoring devices and communication systems that would provide her team with unprecedented intelligence capabilities during their operation. The technical complexity of her systems rivaled equipment used in actual combat deployments. As they approached the coastline in small boats, Sarah activated her electronic surveillance equipment and began monitoring enemy communication networks. Within minutes, she had identified patrol schedules, command frequencies, and intelligence reports that revealed the opposing forces' plans and capabilities. Her teammates adjusted their approach based on her real-time intelligence updates. The beach landing proceeded flawlessly, thanks largely to Sarah's ability to track enemy movements and identify safe approach routes. Her electronic monitoring revealed that their planned landing site was under surveillance, allowing them to adjust to an alternative location that provided better concealment and tactical advantages. The mission was succeeding before they even reached shore. Moving inland, Sarah continued providing electronic intelligence while the team navigated toward their primary objectives. Her equipment revealed hidden sensors and communication networks that would have detected conventional reconnaissance approaches. By understanding the enemy's technological capabilities, they were able to avoid detection while gathering detailed information about their targets. The first objective was a simulated command center that required the team to gather intelligence without alerting the occupants to their presence. Sarah's electronic warfare capabilities proved crucial as she identified communication systems, security networks, and information databases that contained the intelligence they needed. Her teammates provided security while she conducted technical exploitation of enemy systems. The intelligence Sarah gathered exceeded all expectations. She accessed communication networks that revealed enemy plans, identified key personnel and their locations, and discovered vulnerabilities in their security systems that could be exploited during future operations. Her technical skills had transformed a simple reconnaissance mission into a comprehensive intelligence coup. The second phase of the mission required the team to conduct direct action against selected targets while maintaining operational security. Sarah's electronic monitoring allowed them to coordinate their attacks with perfect timing, ensuring that enemy forces could not respond effectively to their assault. Her ability to disrupt enemy communications prevented coordinated counterattacks that might have compromised their mission. As the final exercise concluded, Sarah realized how completely her role in special operations had evolved. She was no longer struggling to fit into conventional team structures, but had become an integral part of a new type of SEAL unit that combined traditional warrior skills with advanced technical capabilities. Her unique abilities enhanced every aspect of team performance rather than creating complications. Commander Reynolds conducted the after-action review with obvious satisfaction in the graduate's performance. He highlighted Sarah's contributions as an example of how modern SEAL operations required diverse skill sets and innovative thinking. Her success demonstrated that excellence in special operations could be achieved through multiple pathways, not just traditional approaches. During the graduation ceremony, Sarah received her SEAL Trident alongside her classmates, but she also received additional recognition for technical excellence and innovation in electronic warfare. Her performance during training had established new standards for integrating advanced technology with traditional special operations tactics. She had become a pioneer in the evolution of SEAL capabilities. Commander Reynolds approached Sarah after the ceremony to offer congratulations and discuss her future assignments. The specialized units he had mentioned months earlier were eager to recruit her, and her training performance had made her one of the most sought-after new graduates in recent memory. Her unique combination of SEAL qualifications and technical expertise opened opportunities that few operators ever experienced. Looking back on her training experience, Sarah understood that her early struggles had been necessary steps in discovering her true potential. The failures that had once seemed like evidence of her inadequacy had actually been learning experiences that helped her develop resilience and adaptability. Commander Reynolds' guidance had been crucial in helping her recognize and develop her unique capabilities. The single command that had changed everything was surprisingly simple. Stop trying to be like everyone else and start being the best version of yourself. Commander Reynolds had recognized that Sarah's strengths lay in approaching problems differently, and his guidance had helped her transform perceived weaknesses into exceptional capabilities. Years later, as Sarah led her own team of specialized operators in classified missions around the world, she would remember that pivotal moment when Commander Reynolds helped her understand her true value. She had learned that excellence in special operations was not about conforming to a single standard, but about maximizing individual strengths while contributing to team success. Her career flourished in ways she had never imagined possible. Sarah, became one of the Navy's leading experts in electronic warfare and information operations, conducting missions that combined traditional SEAL tactics with cutting-edge technology. Her ability to see tactical situations from unique perspectives made her an invaluable asset in complex operations that required innovative solutions. The technical skills that had once seemed like obstacles to traditional SEAL training became her greatest professional assets. Sarah pioneered new methods for integrating electronic warfare with direct action missions, developed training programs for other operators, and advised senior military leaders on the evolving nature of special operations warfare. Her influence extended far beyond her individual performance. Commander Reynolds continued to follow Sarah's career with pride, knowing that his recognition of her potential had helped unlock capabilities that might otherwise have been wasted. Their relationship evolved into a professional mentorship that continued throughout both of their careers, with Sarah eventually assuming leadership roles that allowed her to guide other unconventional operators toward success. The lesson of Sarah's transformation became part of SEAL training doctrine, emphasizing the importance of recognizing diverse strengths and adapting training methods to maximize individual potential. Future classes of candidates benefited from the understanding that excellence could be achieved through multiple pathways, not just traditional approaches to special operations. Sarah's story demonstrated that sometimes the greatest warriors are those who think differently, approach problems from unique angles, and refuse to accept conventional limitations on their potential. Her success proved that effective leadership involves recognizing when standard methods are insufficient and finding alternative paths to extraordinary achievement. The single command from Commander Reynolds had unlocked not just Sarah's potential, but had also advanced the entire special operations community's understanding of what it meant to be an elite warrior in the modern era. Her journey from struggling candidate to pioneering operator illustrated the transformative power of leadership that sees beyond immediate performance to recognize underlying capability and potential. Looking back on her remarkable career, Sarah understood that her greatest achievements had grown from her willingness to embrace her unique perspective rather than abandon it in favor of conformity. The technical expertise that had initially seemed incompatible with SEAL training had actually represented the future of special operations warfare, making her a pioneer in the evolution of military excellence. Commander Reynolds' single command had changed not only Sarah's trajectory, but had also influenced how the Navy approached training and developing special operations personnel. His recognition that diverse capabilities strengthened rather than weakened elite units became a cornerstone of modern SEAL philosophy, ensuring that future operators would be developed according to their individual strengths rather than forced into rigid conformity. The transformation was complete, from a candidate who was failing every training exercise to a pioneering operator who redefined what it meant to excel in special operations. Sarah's success proved that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from meeting existing standards but from establishing new ones that reflect the changing demands of modern warfare and the unique capabilities of exceptional individuals.